Hello, friends. Welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. It's astonishing how some people can be so oblivious. If you're going to mistreat your employees, pay for it, and they'll be fine with it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Take away my overtime? Okay. I was offered a crap salary and promotion to a job I was already doing, through increased responsibility by being a good employee with great job performance. I turned it down. I wasn't allowed to negotiate either, which I still did. F that rule. The counteroffer was still far less than median, which was the lowest I would go as I did a good job. It doesn't look good when employees refuse promotions, and near every manager in the company knows me. I'm the supply guy after all. So they tried taking my OT away. They had to be gunning after my pride and performance and not wanting to be fired. To note, I live a simple life and don't care for the money, but my friends in the company are in similar positions and have families and need the money. I can get another job easy enough that pays enough for me to live off of. I turned it down because it's not a lot of money to a big company and don't want to fuel mistreatment of its employees, my friends. I complied with no more OT, but I told them I needed the OT to do a good job. As a supply guy for a large company, I order millions of dollars of supplies throughout the year. I didn't have time to negotiate big orders anymore. HR didn't care, and my director boss didn't think I'd let my job performance drop. I started doing bare minimum within my HR provided copy and paste job description and only 8-hour days. I sucked. I did the role above my job title to begin with, but they would never acknowledge this, or they'd have to pay me for it. So now I was spending $20,000 plus more a month than I used to. Boss knew, but what could he do? He effed up. I'm the only person in the company with knowledge that can only be gained through experience to do the job. I'm also critical to many operations. This is small figures to a large company, and it's not like my boss in HR would tell people they messed up in my handling. He also spent the personnel budget on hiring his friend to be a director, so I heard later. So I stuck around until I'd trained a replacement since I didn't want to leave on a bad note, since my great friends I made in the company are the managers I worked with daily for years, so then I left. It'd be a bad story if this was all. When I left, a lot of people were curious why. My friends, near every manager, weren't afraid to talk as my boss wasn't their boss. Without going into detail, I'm popular in my company for lower-level workers. I've saved the day a few times and do all I can to make their job easier. Due to other complaints with HR and poor pay, me leaving fueled their discontent further to a noticeable performance level. This prompted an unofficial investigation by other directors. Our COO was the likely core of the problem. He hired my boss, his friend, and had a say in the HR director's hiring. Other directors soon drove them out, as it's hard to like a job when your employees and coworkers hate you. The HR director still works there and causes problems, but she no longer has a say in pay levels. A few managers and good employees got raises. There's still a lack of base pay, though, if you ask me. Overall, I like to think I had a key role to play, as I knew a few directors on a personal level. I'm back at college after dropping out the first time for medical reasons. I still talk to my friends at the company regularly. And our second story. No free money for Landlady. Backstory. I live in an apartment behind a house in Los Angeles. There's no one renting the house currently. My landlady and I have been having some issues. At first they were small. She takes too long to change the light bulb in the bathroom that I cannot reach. 2 weeks in the dark. The only way the light bulb was going to get changed was if I went out and purchased a full-on ladder, somehow attached it to my compact car to bring home, and then finagled it into my apartment. All things I shouldn't have to do. I started paying my rent and money orders to have records because she wanted rent in cash and refused to give me a receipt. I even printed out a receipt and left a place for her to sign, which she accepted but never signed or returned. Shady. With each incident, she would always say, "Don't worry, I'll get around to it." She and I also have an agreement that she's able to enter my apartment to retrieve the rent money from the counter each month whenever she wants, which for this month was yesterday, the 15th. This is when it all came to a head. I noticed the rent was gone, but so too was some of my food. Not a great deal of food, but I clearly had 6 bananas and now I had 5. There was also a grape in my sink I didn't put there, which meant she went into my fridge, looked around, and helped herself. I don't know what else she sampled as I went grocery shopping the day before and had plenty to choose from. I've been missing things, little things, for months now and attributed to me being scatterbrained. I was actually starting to worry a little as it was getting ridiculous. Maybe I did drink that 6-pack of cider and misplaced 2 bottles, but a whole canister of garlic salt? Where would I have even put that? Now I'm starting to think she's just helping herself whenever she comes by. On to the revenge. I came home and found a note on the door of the main house. Dear neighbor, I'm a location scout for the television show Ray Donovan. We're currently in our 3rd season on Showtime Network. We're in your area searching for a home to shoot for an upcoming scene in our show. The action in the scene is all exterior. If you're interested in renting your home for a film shoot, please call me on my cell at XXXXXXXXXX. Thank you for your consideration. JT, Assistant Location Manager. He also left an official-looking card, which leads me to believe this is not so much a scam as it is a legit offer from a show with a healthy budget to pay my landlady decent money for doing nothing other than letting them set up shop on her front lawn. I want to say I ripped it to shreds. I want to say I called the number on the card, posed as an authority figure, and declined the offer. I want to say I'm secure in the knowledge that she'll never know of the overture, but no, I'm hanging on to it. I'll make sure she knows about it in a few weeks, /months, /years. You know, when I get around to it. And our next story. You need a doctor's note to prove sickness, or we'll sack you. This happened almost 20 years ago. I'd been working away in a restaurant and had just finished a Saturday day shift. It wasn't common to get a Saturday night off as it was our busiest night, and the boss was making me feel I should be offering to do overtime because they were being so kind to me. The last hour of my shift, I started feeling crappy. By the time I got home, I was exploding at both ends and really miserable. I was hoping I'd feel better the next morning, but still felt awful. I dutifully phoned in sick because I couldn't be around food for 24 hours. My boss immediately assumed I was hungover and threatened to fire me for letting everyone down. I said fine, because I wasn't about to go to work. At the time, my flatmate was helping the same restaurant out because they were short a chef. He goes into work and is telling the boss how sick I am. He didn't know I'd been threatened, but it meant that boss phoned me back and said if I could provide a sick note for the day, I wouldn't lose my job. At this time, my pay was about 300 euros a week, and a doctor's appointment and sick note was going to set me back 100 euros. Fine. If you're going to assume the worst about me when I never phoned in sick before, done. I got the grumpiest doctor who was pissed. I'd made an appointment for this when he had actual sick people who needed to see him. The doctor signed me off for a full week. Instead of helping out to cover one of my shifts, they had to cover another 5 shifts, and I got a week off paid. And our next story. Sweet revenge on annoying companies. I love messing with people who call you to scam you or for stupid offers. My father invests in houses and buildings, so quite often he visits real estate sites. We're not entirely sure about this, but we think that his phone number somehow gets tracked and saved by companies when he visits their sites. So he regularly gets calls from companies trying to sell bullcrap offers. He hates it when that happens, so usually he says, "Shouldn't you ask if you're disturbing me?" And then the caller says, "Oh yes, I'm sorry. Do I disturb you, sir?" Then my father says, "Yes, you do," and hangs up. But recently we decided to take it to the next level, so as he gets called, my father gathers everyone in the house, my mother, brother, and me. We sit around the table. Now the funny part, so my father lets the caller do the entire offer explanation and then says, "Oh yeah, sure, that sounds very interesting, but for that I'll have to connect you to my manager." Phone goes to me. Caller does the whole explanation again. Then I say, "Oh, I'll have to connect you through to the head of purchasing." My brother takes the phone, again, whole explanation. "That sounds interesting, but for offers on the phone, I'll have to pass you to my secretary." As we all fake being interested, the caller keeps explaining his offer. The secretary, my mother, gives the phone back to my father, always in another voice, who's the responsible one for calls, and he for some reason speaks only French. We're Belgian, so that's quite usual. And Jack is blah blah blah, and then the caller says he doesn't speak French and will have to connect us with someone of the company who can speak French. Then 10 seconds after the guy hung up, we get called by the same number, in French this time. My father picks up again, and we do it all over again until they get sick of it and just hang up, and we all laugh like hyenas. Our record of letting someone explain his offer on a single call is 11. And our last story. Refuse to do your job because you're a vegan? Fine. I'm a supervisor for a company that basically does inventory counts for retail stores, grocery stores, gas stations, and other types of stores. Our biggest and most frequent account is a gas station chain. Recently, our management decided that since business slows down during the holidays, that now would be a good time to put the newer hires on these gas station teams to get them some in-store training. Since I'm a supervisor, I run the gas station counts, and we do 2 in a day. This one particular day, I happen to get one of these newer people on my team, and we'll call her Emily. So at the first store, I was going over the basics with what's so different about counting this gas station chain to Emily, and right off the bat, she was giving me a bit of attitude by not fully listening and acting like she knew this already, despite this being her first gas station. I give everyone else their assignments, and about 45 minutes later, Emily comes up to me, telling me that she cannot count the particular area she was assigned and asks for a new area. I ask her why. Is the one I gave you really messy and unorganized? She tells me no, it's because it has all the beef jerky, and I'm a vegan, so it goes against my morals. I give her the biggest, "Are you effing kidding me" look, and I tell her, okay, that's cool. I'm not asking you to eat the beef jerky. I'm only asking you to count it because that's our job. She stands there defiant and still refuses because it's against her morals. Note that these counts start at 5 a.m., which means I need to get there even earlier to set up, so I was pretty tired and was not in the mood to put up with her bullcrap. I noticed she didn't bring a jacket, and this particular gas station has 2 separate coolers, one for normal beverage and one for alcohol. So I tell her, fine, you can count the beverage backstock instead. It's in the coolers. She begins to protest she can't because she didn't bring a jacket, and then I flat out tell her, if you continue to refuse to do your job, I'll kick you out of the store, send you home for the day with no pay, tell the area manager about your behavior, and he'll write you up if he doesn't fire you on the spot. She relents and goes to start counting in the cooler. As soon as she enters, I can hear her say, "Oh my God, it's too cold." I tell her, well, better count fast, and close the door. She comes out an hour later shivering, saying she's done. I tell her, oh good, you can get started on the second cooler now. She gets a look of dread on her face and says, there's a second cooler? I say, yup, the alcohol cooler, it's over there. I should note that the gas stations that have a separate cooler for alcohol tend to keep them a lot colder than the freezer with the other beverages. She stays in the second cooler for over an hour before finishing her count, and her face looked half frozen, which made it so much sweeter for me. After we finished up the rest of the store, we moved on to the second store, and I assigned her the area with the beef jerky. She didn't say a word in protest, and barely said another word the rest of the day. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.